right, let's see here. Just waiting for it to. All right, there it is. Well, welcome those of you who are joining. I know I'm doing this one a little bit later than normal, so thank you for being here. And I know I already did one tonight. I kind of warned you guys I might do this, so all right. Earlier I did a little bit of material about well, a lot about the family relative. So it's a couple hours. So if you haven't seen what I did earlier, this may be out of context, but those of you who watch my material pretty frequently, this will probably just make sense to you. But I would say that if it doesn't immediately make sense or something seems out of place, it's because I already went over a lot of the material and the thing that I did earlier today. So again, if this is just something you're watching in the future, I guess at some point, I did two presentations today, and I guess you could call this like part two, because I kind of had more to say on the topic, but I just needed a little bit of time in between. So you'll forgive me for kind of abruptly ending earlier, but I didn't want that one to go on too long. I kind of wanted to bookmark it. At the end of the day, guys, I mean, this material that I'm going through would take frankly, it would just take like some type of mini series type level of documentaries to really appropriately address. Really. um so welcome, appreciate you being here, Fred and Wordsmith. Thank you. So what's bothering me and why I felt compelled to do two on the same day here, I wanted to just sort of like take another deep dive. I've often of my family's connection to Department of Justice processes. Those unfamiliar, my Aunt Kathryn Warma, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Things like this tend to happen during my live streams. I get these like events of embarrassingly bad attacks on my sinuses and all kinds of like indigestion issues all just sort of like hit me simultaneously. I don't know if it's just a stress response to starting a stream or whatever, even though I don't really get bothered by doing these things, to be honest with you. So excuse me. Okay. I think I'm good now. All right. Sorry. All right. Yeah, so as I came back here, I thought I just, I wanted to put together some more material in a more formal way so I could do another presentation on another night. But as I just started going through these press releases connected to my aunt, it just kept on sticking in my craw just how wrong all this is and how I really can't believe that I would still be facing any level of resistance to getting certain people's attention about the legitimacy of how the optics of all this is really bad. That's all I can tell you. So I just need to show you what I saw and ask you what you would do if this was your family. How would you approach this? So to be clear, and let me just read from my description here, guys, because that'll be the best thing for me to do. Hang on. So I put after my live stream tonight, I decided to do a search on the Department of Justice's press releases for my Aunt Kathryn Warma to give some of her more high-profile cases a closer review. Without drawing any immediate assumptions, I'm just going to read the details to this audience to see if you find some of the bigger connections troubling or not. Let's review. I've done many reports on sophisticated cybercrime hacks that are destabilizing America's financial security over the last couple years. When I first noticed these things, I reached out to my uncle, Ricardo, who is married to Aunt Kathryn Warma, to my Aunt Kathryn Warma, seeking help with things related to harassment, my cellular service, and what appeared to be sophisticated and coordinated up close and personal harassment campaigns I was experiencing. He took a few weeks to respond and effectively told me my aunt was retired and couldn't help. Keep in mind, she had just retired from a pretty high profile position as a cybercrime attorney with the Seattle, Washington Department of Justice, prosecuting cases that had a global reach, oftentimes, including the prosecution of Russian citizen Roman Seleznev. I attach a link here for your review. This is all inside the description if you feel like reading along. And there's links. You can find a list of her other high-profile press releases at the DOJ site here. So guys, rather than me just saying these things, I'm going to say copy link address, and I'm going to place each one of these links as I discuss it in the chat here for you. That way you can see, oh, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Hang on here. Which one is that? Sputnik News, all right. So if you want to see the Sputnik News article where you can see that my Aunt Kathryn a band from Russia, there's that. And then, excuse me, then I have, all right. Then I can send you the link that I did for the Department of Justice here, where I did kind of like a search. And then it's just a general query search. And so if you want to see what I learned tonight, this is a DOJ website link in case you don't see the entire thing. So I'm just going to warn you, the next one I'm posting here right now is from the Department of Justice. And if you're not comfortable going to their website, don't click on it. The one I posted, Warma banned from Russia, is a Sputnik News website, which is unreported on the DOJ. I don't see her name listed hardly ever in any of their documentation, which is weird to me. But she's connected to it, and Russia banned her and a few other people. All right. Sorry, guys. This always happens when I talk about certain topics. It's like I get this choking sensation. You'll often find Kathryn Warma's name next to Jenny Durkan. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because she was behind many of the very bad decisions surrounding Seattle Chaz during the protests and riots in Seattle, where she is now mayor. Yes, my aunt works side by side with now Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan, the same aunt who was married to Ricardo Cruz, my uncle by blood, who was appointed at one time to Seattle School District by former Washington Governor Gary Locke, who went on to become ambassador to China and Secretary of Commerce under Obama. And if you would like to review those two people's histories, I'm going to place those in the chat here as well. This one's Jenny Durkan. And then this one would be Gary Locke. So again, I want you to think about this. This aunt and uncle of mine that I couldn't really get a lot of assistance from, even though I have 20 years of like wireless industry experience and really actually understand quite a few of these things. Just not interested, even though it's affecting their own nephew. And then I started to get really bothered by their response to me, which could have, again, I could have interpreted that as, hey, she's retired. She's done doing this. Why should she reach out to help some nephew she barely knows? Even if I was really close to my uncle at one time. That's what really bothered me about the whole thing, you guys. Like, this was an uncle that, I mean, look, guys, I know a lot of people in Seattle have a negative opinion of him based on some of the things that I've read, but he was really good to me growing up as a kid. I guess that's what just happens when you're in a family like that. I only saw good things growing up. I saw a guy that was like a mediator and tended to be a person that tried to get folks to get along. He wasn't as rigid of a disciplinarian as I was used to having in my house, as much as, I didn't think that that was a bad thing to have, but he just was a little bit more relaxed and seemed to have like a little bit more heart and understanding when it came to people's, ebbs and flows as far as them growing up, so to see this other variation on his personality when I got to be an adult was very challenging for me. And I guess people change over time, or maybe you just never knew them. or you change, or it's a combination of all of it. But um, I didn't know anything but that variation. So to read things that were published in people's blogs and in press articles or in actual news articles from major news publications within the Seattle area that were drawing parallels between corruption within Seattle school district or positions that he had held, things of that nature. Um, it was just, concerning to me over time to find it multiple examples. And then I would go to family members and say, do you know what that's about? Like my father. And, I got some pretty dismissive excuses back. I would get comments like, well, kind of like, mm, how do I say it, guys? I don't want to get too specific, but more or less, like haters are gonna hate. It's that kind of response, but in a more official and a more fatherly way. Like, well, you're in certain positions, and you have to, like, you're gonna bump heads with people because you make decisions that piss them off, and so they get vendettas and everything, and they go on smear campaigns. It's that kind of thing where, and those things do happen. So I remain open to that being the possibility. However, I mean, honestly, there was a time where I was more open to that being it. In fact, I thought that was probably it. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to find more information. This is going to explain all of this, and it's going to be way more complicated than I thought. But well, 5 years later, actually many years after I started, I mean, that was back in 2012 that I began finding that kind of information, and it just got worse and worse over time. So, but I really started to investigate it about 2015, 2016, and then ever since then, it's just been finding more and more information. And tonight, I really put my face inside my hands when I saw the connection to Jenny Durkan, Seattle mayor. How do I draw that parallel? You will find it too if you go through all the links that I just sent you. You will. All right. So keeping in mind, guys, my family are the Cruzes. So my father is the brother of Ricardo Cruz, married Kathryn Warma. She kept her maiden name professionally and in general life, even assigning her last name to the son that they both had together. So my cousin that was birthed with my uncle as the father, as the Cruz, does not even use the Cruz name. I thought that was for reasons that they explained to me, which I won't tell everybody here, but they gave me some reason as to why that happened, about preserving bloodlines, something to that degree, or preserving a name because there wasn't many men to carry it on. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it's something like that. And I don't really think that that's really what it's about. I think it's really just about record corruption, quite frankly, like I've seen with everything that's connected to my family. Frankly, it's about confusion. It's about crossing terms and names, or having mirrors of data and names that make it to where a person from the outside trying to figure out what's going on can't really decipher it easily. You don't know which person you're dealing with. You don't know. They'll use the same name over and over again. Like, well, like what I've told people about, like when they use Simon and Simone together, like they'll say Simon married Simone, that kind of thing, like names that are nearly identical in the way they're spelled, but you add maybe one letter, or it could be a pluralization or something like that for money laundering purposes. And as I began doing more research, I would find articles that said that, like, my uncle had done some pretty horrible things when he was at the school districts. There was a lot of people that were upset with him there. Again, the excuses that I got internally from people was that, again, that whole haters are going to hate kind of argument. Okay. But whether it was just saying that they were firing good people and hiring cronies and friends of theirs at inflated rates, that was some of the accusations in public positions at school districts or utilities, and that they had a track record of doing this, and that my uncle could get away with it effectively because my Aunt Kathryn, this is the allegations that are made, you guys, not me saying it, people basically imply out there that my uncle and my aunt can get away with practically anything in Seattle because of their political connections, which are more hidden in nature based on her relationship to people that are inside at the DOJ and various judges, and that my uncle similarly has similar types of accesses and connections to power players. But what's the one common thread? Well, I can tell you that not a single one of them is a Republican, and they're both high-profile Democrats. And Gary Locke, I would say, is probably more of historically, I wouldn't call him a moderate, but not doesn't really make extreme liberal decisions typically. um, he was the one that appointed my uncle to positions. And so if you don't consider that politically connected, hey, fine. All right, I do. I consider that being a politically connected person. And then my Aunt Kathryn, I'll show you proof of all of this here shortly. She was connected to Jenny Durkan, who was the mayor of Seattle as of 2017, I think. And she was behind, decisions like Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone during the riot season there, where the protests all turned pretty ugly. And Seattle started getting torn up along with Portland and other areas by groups like Antifa. And you should see the footage, guys. I mean, here's my problem, guys. I looked at all of that and I said, well, you got people out there that are LARPing. You got people that are actually tearing things up. And how else do I say this, guys? Some of the ones that make it like their faces on camera. One of the guys that was like behind, like starting it and like fueling the flames of the riot. I've never met him. He's with Rose City Antifa. And he was right there being interviewed by mainstream media and alt media alike. Has a front door to these media organizations. Like they're all just like waiting to interview the guy and listen to what he has to say. While he goes like, people with my face are getting locked up, and you don't care about us. And you don't care about us because you're all going to college and we're going to jail. And yeah, I get it, guys. I'm not going to say that some of those arguments aren't without merit to some degree. Except it's just disingenuous coming from a person that I know is pretty privileged behind the scenes and just fakes this. This is just an act for them. They're getting all of you to get riled up in Rose City Antifa. I'm talking about Luis Marquez. He's an actor, guys. Whether you guys want to accept that or not, he's from a privileged, wealthy family. And a lot of them fake being middle class. A lot of them fake that they don't have the kind of access and resources they do. And so I'm telling you, as a person that's close to this group, me personally, like I don't have access to those resources. I am not, quote, one of the family, but I'm aware that quite a few people that are in this, quote, not just the family from the bloodline sense, but the family, they do get these accesses. They do get the funding. They just have to either be a part of the acting in the crisis networks, and they're getting great lifestyles, nice homes, a lot of things that are less detectable, but show signs of affluence, things you can get for cash. It's that kind of thing, guys. Don't act like it ain't happening. And guys, sorry, man, some of y'all have been way too close to some of these, quote, false flag and other events, guys. And we've got this as a thread in this family. Just admit it. Because I don't want anybody thinking that what I do is a crisis acting thing. I don't want anybody thinking that what I do when I'm discussing things here is lacking in legitimacy. And so I have to tell this to people over and over again in repetition so that you can differentiate what I do from what others in this, quote, family do. Some are crisis actors. That's what they do. Can you imagine why it might have been a good idea for the ones involved with crisis acting to conceal this from yours truly? Let me present all my truth out there. And then I guess it allows them to what? When they need to, they can just tell people that I'm one of them. And then whenever they need to like ostracize me, they can use the same set of actors and crisis actors to surround me with, kill you with kindness type things and help structure my reality and push my narrative and usher me from one place to the next. This has been happening for a while. It happens to people that I care about. Sometimes they put us together and usher us to different places together. And we're just like, oh, boy, we don't have a lot of control over our lives. I have a legitimate argument here, folks, and I'm going to show very clearly here why. I'm going to start with showing you slides because I don't want to delay the information here. I'll close out a couple windows because it's getting kind of cluttered in here. All right. Yeah, I should shut this. All right. Hmm. Well, that's quite interesting. All my links got miraculously closed. No, there they are. I was like, no, there's no way this happened. That would just be too convenient, wouldn't it? All right, here we go. All right. Freaking Chrome. All right. Hang on. Share screen window. There it is. All right. All right. Okay. So why am I doing this tonight? Like what got the bug up my what to do this so quickly after I already did something? Well, I'm going to show you. So I thought I'd do more research here on, my Aunt Kathryn. So as you can see here, that's her name. I did a search on her name and I found 6 results on the Department of Justice's website, right? So you can see she was connected to some high profile cases, one involving California rap artist, a guy that's named what was his name? I think his name's Gorilla Black. Yeah, Gorilla Black. Interesting that it's, GB. But you'll see here it says the case is being prosecuted by Assistant United States Attorney Kathryn Warma. So this guy's like a hip hop artist. Oh wait, it's a different case. Excuse me. California rap. Why did? Yeah. Okay. So you can see over here. And then I think I looked. That's Jenny Durkan. Hang on. No. Let me look up the. And so again, well, it's just like it's my name without vowels. It's kind of weird about it. And I've just observed that they do things with numerology and vowel. I don't want to get too deep into like what I think that they're doing, but it's relevant because you'll see later with some of the numerology. So like they'll use a name of they'll arrest a person whose the initials like form the letters like GB, like Gib. Okay. Well, then you're going to notice that in a bunch of the other articles that look like they're fake press releases, then they're going to be saying in repetition like 27,000 like 257, which if you read that, if you translate those letters to numbers or those numbers to letters, you're going to notice that it's my name backwards in repetition. Gabe backwards. Big, big, Gabe, Gabe, big, big. I'm going to show it to you guys. And then you're going to understand how full of, what a lot of this is and what its real purpose is relative to mass resonance manipulation and structural psychology. They literally make things up and place them into the collective consciousness to make things happen that otherwise would not happen without them faking it and having this much attention of this many people. Oh, yeah, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show you. All right. So again, there he is again. There he is again. Most of these are like, this is bizarre that they're all focused on these two cases at the DOJ website. Like, are you serious? She's done so many different cases that are high profile, but they're not listing. But here's another one: Dutch citizen sentenced to 12 years in prison for a computer hacking scheme that stole and sold credit card info. Now, let's take a look at the details behind this one, because to me, this is just beyond like. Now, remember, again, she's married to my uncle Ricardo, and I want you to remember that a lot of people have certain positions as puppets. They're placed there to make decisions on behalf of a larger mafia, and sometimes they'll use a name similar to the person that's controlling them as the puppet. Sometimes they're somebody as simple as like a director within an FBI office. Sometimes they're just a lawyer someplace, or a physician's assistant someplace. People that can sign off on things that you have to have certain credentials for. So they fake certain credentials, and they have people who have real credentials just sort of like give them orders and use them as surrogates. All right. So check this one out. This is where it all gets like super really fakey make fake, and you start understanding why these people that used to be at the DOJ are suddenly like Seattle mayor. So this is a case that my Aunt Kathryn did with now Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan. Take a look at this. You'll see Jenny Durkan, Dutch citizen, 12 years in prison. Scroll down to the bottom. You'll see she did this case with Kathryn Warma. Jenny Durkan and Kathryn Warma together. Now, who's Jenny Durkan? That's Jenny Durkan. Jenny Ann Durkan is an American attorney, former federal prosecutor, and politician serving as the 56th mayor of Seattle. She is the daughter of Martin Durkan. Durkan is a member of the Democratic Party. Okay, blah, blah, blah. She began practicing law as a criminal defense lawyer and civil litigator. In October 2009, President Barack Obama appointed her United States Attorney for the Western District of Washington. She held that position until September 2014. Durkan was elected the 56th mayor of Seattle in 2017, becoming the city's first female mayor since the 20s and its second openly LGBT elected mayor. She first took place. This took first place in the nonpartisan August primary and defeated urban planner and political activist Carrie Moon in the November general election. She and her partner Dana Garvey have 2 sons. Durkan was criticized for her response to the George Floyd protests in Seattle and her handling of the law enforcement in the so-called Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ. In December 2020, she announced that she would not seek re-election after her term as mayor ends. Well, that's all right. You did enough damage already, Jenny, so no worries. Yeah, guys. So especially you out there, Fred, in Washington State, who know what I'm talking about more intrinsically, because you actually have to vote for some of the people that wind up being governor or whatever. I mean, you can kind of understand like this a little bit better about why these connections are relevant. You must know about the relevance of Governor Gary Locke being connected to my uncle, the same uncle that's married to the aunt that prosecuted cases at the DOJ with this woman, with this lady that created Chaz. Now let's go down and take a look at some of her more. Well, let's take a look. As mayor of Seattle, well, she's been openly critical of Donald Trump. So again, one of the people that does all the we're resisting everything that Donald Trump does, and you can all come here, and we're pushing back on everything that he says and does, which is consistent with what? Guess what, guys? What is that consistent with? That would also be consistent with my aunt's position. She actually went out to Washington, D.C., put on the pink hats and marched and everything like that with, and I have photos of it from Facebook. She did this with Kim Warma, and Kim Warma is the person that owns ProAct Crisis Assault Actor Training. So now, here I have my Aunt Kathryn connected to Mayor Jenny Durkan and another crisis actor company, former mayor, now bouncing around, going to Washington, D.C., hanging out in Seattle, where, well, a lot of LARPs are going on. where a lot of things are being fictionalized. A lot of people are getting out in the streets going, fight the power, fight the power. And I'm kind of looking at some of these people going, you look like you could be a cousin I've never met. And you're getting all these people riled up. Who's going to do something about this? Because the FBI is not doing shit. I'm not talking about anything illegal. I'm asking everybody, once we've discovered that they're just kind of in on these things, or they're just turning a blind eye, what is the process that you do? What do we do in a legal, lawful way to say, hey, the FBI is corrupt? It's proven. It's not just something we should just be kind of going like, yeah, guys, they've got a lot of issues. No. I think this shows that the people at the lower level probably would like to do their jobs, but just are left in a completely corrupted system where they're just kind of left doing virtual cases that don't really exist. The things that I'm showing you are virtual cases as far as I'm concerned. In my opinion, that's what they are. They're virtual cases that are swapped for the real cases. And the real crimes are handled in another way, completely private, handled more like a mafia. That's what I think is going on. I think what the FBI does is they handle it between the FBI and the CIA. I think they basically just agreed to absorb cartels and criminal organizations into their fold. They manage them. They manage the drugs. They manage the human trafficking. They manage the child exploitation relative to the electronic transmission of said exploitation, because none of these things could happen without the participation of Science Applications International Corporation and Leidos. It could not happen. They are literally the gateway to the internet. Everything that goes on within the internet is within their sandbox. And so when you start learning all these connections, you see that, well, my brother had 6 years at SAIC, Science Applications International Corporation. He's now in control of the operations group at the National Security Directorate at Hanford Nuclear Reservation in Richland, Washington. And, when all of these people can't do anything about what I'm talking about, I call the bull, you know what, on that. Just saying. I can't accept that. I can't accept it. I won't accept it. I don't believe that this is the best that you can do. Telling that to this family, I don't believe this is the best that you can do, unless what you're trying to do is cover up something really horrible, in which case you're doing an excellent job, and I guess you are doing the best you can do. If you're trying to help America, you're doing horribly. If you're trying to do something that would benefit America and prevent these horrible hacks that seem to be backdoors into firmware within our technology that are pretty vast, you're doing a really bad job. And if you think that if crisis acting and live action role plays are the methods that you've developed, to fight back at what you perceive to be fascist conservatism, which is being made up by you through these LARPs, because these patriot movements are the same set of actors. They just have different groups that handle different things. So when you need people that look like they're angry patriots, they tap into that love family cult, children of God cult, source family cult, because they're just filled with these people that can blend in as they can be hippies, they can be Southerners from the backwoods. They can look like so many different groups of people, and they're actors in many cases. They are professional actors. When they're not acting in television or film productions, mostly of a low budget variety that most people never see, they're doing things that involve the crisis acting companies. And then when they're not in a crisis acting scenario of a legitimate nature, which would involve, yes, guys, sometimes there are actual simulations that are done for the sake of training. For example, if you're a fire department and you want to have a realistic training session done one day where people seem like, they need to have like artificial resuscitation and you want more than just dummies. You want people that'll actually present challenges to you and be difficult because they're like experiencing fake dementia or they're experiencing fake loss of blood and they're going like, oh, they're acting erratic. So sometimes what they're literally training in these like the official PROACT classes is like they're teaching like restraining techniques of a person that's disabled. That's like they have a whole class on that topic alone. Which I guess there's legitimate reasons to have those types of classes, guys, but when you think about what it actually is at a deeper level, what this all really is, if it is what I think it is, I don't know, guys. All right, so let's just summarize something really quick, just so you understand, because we're at what? About 30, yeah, 30 some minutes in here. So I already did my material tonight. Tonight I decided just to go deeper into these cases involving my aunt, because sometimes I've told you guys that I think that the Department of Justice will just make things up and that the cases sound a little bit fake, you make fake. I don't know. Every time I look at one of these things, I'm kind of going, this all looks like to me almost like it's an advertisement for how something works, and less like it's actually, it's like whenever they do, like tell you all about a credit card, like, black market credit card fraud thing that they did. It's like, is that what happened? Or is it just simply that you're creating, like, from now on, that person will be the character that people go to get the cards? And then the press release is just there to let people know that that's the person. You see what I'm saying? Like it's almost like they don't really bust somebody. It's like they're all high-fiving each other behind the scenes and just going, all right, who's going to be the person that sells these, like, his credit card numbers to people? I don't know. Let's get the rapper Gorilla Black to do it. Okay, somebody fake arrest him and bring him in, and we'll do this big show in front of everybody. But when we release him and everything like that, everybody knows he's the guy to go to, right? Oh yeah. It's I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying that something like that appears to be happening. All right? Where nothing's really going on. Things aren't really getting prosecuted. We get whatever goes on in reality gets swapped out with a fiction. Because when you see that, like, this happened, right? Russia blacklists U.S. justice officials related to Seleznev's detention. Russia has blacklisted 4 U.S. Justice Department officials: Charles Seth Wilkinson, Ethan Ray Aronson, Kathryn Warma, Norman Barbosa, related to last year's detention of Russian citizen Roman Seleznev. Okay. And then I can show you guys in more detail here my slides related to PROACT. Strangely, I'm having trouble getting the slide up. Sorry, I'm trying to get the right one up here. Hang on. No, that's not it. Okay. So again, guys, here's what I'm trying to explain to you. So this lady here is my Aunt Kathryn Warma. This lady here is Kim Warma, and she owns this company here, Proact. And Proact is professional assault crisis training. So literally crisis actors and helping them get trained. And then this is like one of their training sessions. This is one of the screenshots I took. They're going to tell you we're to believe a guy named Richard Van Ache. You know, those X-ray vans that drive around make people ache pretty bad. Those are vans that ache her. They're Acre, Van Ache. I don't know. I'm not saying that one leads to the other, but a red Van Ache would be like an electronic weapon cipher. I've seen them over and over again. I know how they work. And I did all the records research to where I looked into Proact and I found this record in California. I found that it does in fact lead to Kim Warma, and that, again, these are two different ones, R versus K, but I've seen this type of mistake made on the thing or whatever, and I've also seen similar swaps. So it could just be that there's two Kims or whatever, or there's two people that use the name, but then I made sure to validate that against some records that I saw related to the passing of one of the Warmas, and so it does kind of show you how one, was a Groots mocker, which is very strange to me because a Groots is a troll. They even said that Mildred Trollman. Weird, right? And then I also thought it was strange because my birth certificate had this fake birth doctor that's name was Henry James Ty Digsman, and then I noticed that my Aunt Kathryn had Tiedemann inside her bloodline. So Ty Tiedemann, you just take Diggs out, Ty Digsman, Tiedemann, Ty Digsman. Weird. But everybody's claiming ignorance on these data sets and why they're relevant. Both my parents claim ignorance, and my uncle, who's connected to this, who's married to this woman. This is his second wife. And then you'll see here it says this article was about Bob Westinghouse, and it said he's leaving at a time when two other key fraud prosecutors, Carl Blackstone and Kathryn Warma, are also retiring. So I just put in my slide here, are Bob Westinghouse and Carl Blackstone real, or are they Proact? You can understand why I think that these guys might just be like puppets that are like surrogates, because it would make sense, right? If you see how closely connected my family's been to all of these types of shenanigans and crisis things, I have a cousin that was literally in the Riverside shooting when those two people that were allegedly Islamic terrorists went in and shot up that building in Riverside. One of my cousins was in the building and had to get escorted out. I mean, by police and everything. Not as a person involved, but just as a person. It was like a victim and being held. At some point, eventually, as a person of logic and reason, I'm going to have to say WTF and ask what's really going on. To which it's radio silence, and effectively, literally, when I started questioning my father on this, he made this motion. And strangely, ever since then, randomly, when I talk about certain topics, I'll literally just start choking out of nowhere. And my throat gets super dry. It's happened when I do certain presentations and I talk about topics. I can't get through them without drinking constantly to relieve the irritation in my throat. Very strange. Is that called the magnetic noose, Rudy? I heard that's called the magnetic noose. I also heard that people at Department of Energy might know something about the magnetic noose, and that maybe a person that served under Senator Warren Magnuson, like you, might have some idea on what that name might mean as another thing. Because Magnuson is a name. It is. It's a legitimate name. A lot of people have it. But Others have repurposed it. I'm just wondering if you know anything about that magnetic noose, because I've learned a lot about it. Don't exactly know how it works, but I know it's a thing. There's that song that goes, "Nobody speak, nobody get choked." It's kind of like that. If you don't talk about it, you don't got to worry about it. You say something. I just wonder how people feel about using that on people, knowing that my grandmother died. My grandmother, Sarah, died of throat cancer, having never smoked a cigarette in her lifetime. Not really. As far as I know, she was a non smoker. Yeah, she was up there in years, but should we just just accept on faith that she got aggressive throat cancer for no reason? Especially because I know these people aim for a couple areas. The throat, that reminds you not to talk. That's when you get the electronic weapon, the EW SWAC hammer. Hey, isn't that a director's name? Are you starting to see how this works? The connection between Department of Energy, Hollywood, uranium interests. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's get back to the slides of other relevance. But you should see this because you know what sides they're aligned with. They march on DC against Trump for the Democrats. They do the pink hat thing. They're that extreme. They're that left. I can tell you from personal experience, spending time with a lot of these people, MSNBC pretty much plays in perpetuity. It's like the same way that certain conservatives just can't help but watch Fox everywhere they go and want you to see Fox News too. I used to always look, guys, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what you want to watch, I understand why you're so annoyed by other news channels. But like that was the thing, like especially like in the early 2000s, I would go someplace and like the conservatives always wanted me to know like right away, like I'm watching Fox News. I'm like, okay, that's all right. I'm not going to sit here and argue and tell you that CNN is any better or that MSNBC is any better. Definitely not. I would actually argue at this point that they're markedly worse. Markedly. What's the right? Markedly. Yeah. Yeah, they're markedly worse. They're definitely worse than Fox at this point, and I would never have said that before. You guys had to go to some epically bad lengths to get worse. To where now actually there's some tolerable personalities on Fox, believe it or not, which they got rid of some of the folks that I thought were a little bit more, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into this topic right now, but you did a good job cleaning house and getting some quality people in there that actually can speak to some things intelligently and reach across the aisle in a way that they maintain their positions as conservatives, but I find them palatable as a person that has historically been not. And so that helps a person like me when the position that I'm trying to understand better isn't so aggressively abrasive and intentionally looking bad or offensive, which is what these people specialize in doing to conservative positions. Not these people specifically, but like the Clintons. Clinton funded Russian disinformation, drove the witch hunt against Trump. Well, guys, so since you can kind of see that they have these close connections, like the Seattle mayor who invented crap like Chaz, the same Chaz that had like high profile interviews done at his entrance with Luis Marquez of Rose City Antifa, who looks like he could be a cousin that I've never met. Now you're getting to the secret genetic things. Now you're getting into why they hide their bloodlines. Now you're getting into why they trade kids with one another. They'll swap their kids' names. They'll not use the original father's name like they did with her kid. They want to like not have these bloodlines really readily traceable. They don't want you to know who the real parents are. They want you to not know if a cousin is really a parent or a cousin's really a sibling, or if a uncle is pretending to be a parent when they're actually an uncle or an aunt, to hide the bloodlines. Why? Well, a large part why is because of the fictionalization of the names and the use of aliases. And by the way, I know which alias some of your insiders are using as Hollywood film directors. I'm not saying this is one of them, but let me just ask you guys something. Why in the hell would you use a name like Sebastian Silva if you know that I know what I know? Unless you just thought that once I discovered who Sebastian Silva, the director, really is, like I wouldn't look at his photo and know exactly who he leads to. A guy that's directed, I think, a movie called Magic Magic, and he's done a whole series of films like in Peru. He's a Peruvian director, allegedly. I don't think he is. They love faking being foreign directors. They'll say he's from Spain, he's from Italy, he's from Peru. He's not. He's from Seattle. Oh, folks. So many LARPs. What am I supposed to say about things like Epstein and Ghislaine? What am I supposed to even say? If I know that the real stories are never heard from, and that those ones only started coming out when I was revealing things about all this. And that nearly any story the Department of Justice puts out is a planned fiction that is designed to cover it all up and get everybody to get frustrated and move along and never be satiated by the data. Now, think about it. Are you happy with how Epstein worked out? How's that all working out for you guys? Has anybody been really revealed? Has anybody felt the consequences of being revealed? Or did it just create another thing for you to get upset about and them to create a story that you'll talk about that they can talk about similarly, but just helps them pass the codexes, the ciphers, and the cryptograms that are for the trafficking activities that you're also offended by? Because they'll use the story to continue the sales. The story becomes the way to talk about the sales out in the open. The Weinstein story will become a way to talk about the new trafficking economy. They'll do it through the revelation of the story, which is all planned and structured. Because Weinstein leads back to way more things. Epstein leads back to way more things. Yeah, well, he's not dead, but it doesn't matter because he never really, he ran it, but he didn't. They're puppets, they're surrogates. You never see the people who really run these things. You just don't, and you won't. It's just like, Epstein is as much reality as El Chapo. There's people out there that believe in them because they saw them doing things that seemed like they were running it. But they are surrogates for others in the mafia. The real cocaine runners are incredibly boring people. They're not colorful gangsters. They're suburbanites. They hide behind the fictional profiles. They hide behind the actor names. And they get their Hollywood actor friends to buy into it, many of whom are addicted to cocaine. You think it's hard to convince an actor who's addicted to cocaine to go fake an interview with a fake cocaine dealer so that they can keep all selling cocaine in the United States of America while blaming all these Mexicans and Central Americans? It's El Chapo. Don't fuck with him. You're going to get killed by these badass gangsters. It's a great big movie construct. Don't get me wrong. There's some badasses out there that'll definitely beat somebody down. I ain't saying that. And sorry, guys, I'm not saying you don't exist because you got my respect. You do. I know you exist. I'm just telling you that they even get you guys to work for a bunch of boring suburbanites under the illusion that you're working for a gangster. We're all in Oz. Funny I should mention the word Oz because you're going to see it over and over again in their ciphered fake names. It'll always have Oz in there. A-Z, A-S, O-S, over and over again. Because these stories are placing you into Oz. And I told you guys that all of these things connected to the family are connected to Leon. And they'll use both, you know, like Leon Ozkin, the actor, Leon, Guanajuato, Mexico, the region of Mexico. So when I find my Aunt Kathryn only has 6 articles connected to her, and then one. Sorry, guys, that magnetic noose. All right. Let's take a look at this. ID. See, they do ciphers like this, guys. See, JAM, mobile identification numbers. MINs are cell phones. Video bay, nudge, JAM, mobile identification numbers. Car, root. So root is a hacking term, like root a drive, root a cell phone. Okay. 10. Anyways, conspiracy to commit access device. Do you understand, guys, that everything they're saying that this guy did is kind of what I reveal in my articles? Yet my very powerful aunt, who was prosecuting cases like this, is like, I don't know. I don't have any friends that even know about what you're talking about, Gabe. Guys, go through my articles and you'll basically see that this is kind of what I'm talking about, but they do it with cell phone data and the wallet function of like an iPhone or the wallet function of a smartphone. And this very powerful family that's got all these things are, I don't know. Let's dig deeper down here and really see what this amounts to, guys, because Forteza, well, no, because they're the Zeta cartel and they tase and they're placing us in Oz. Read it backwards. Oz, Zeta, row, off. So the tase cars. And who was the judge, guys? Well, remember, Kathryn's married to Ricardo Cruz, but, you know, I don't know. Dose? Lidos? The Sam Mart. Dose Sam Mart. Okay. That could be something that may not be. All right, so that's one. Here's the one I found interesting, though, guys, because remember, I told you that my family's got the Leon Ozkin connection, Leon, Mexico. And then here, this is the one that made me just like, I had my jaw dropped. Okay, again, I've talked about credit card function hacking, NFC chip hacking in credit cards, wallet function hacking in cell phones. This is the kind of cases that my aunt was prosecuting, but they don't know what I'm talking about and they don't even know who to ask. Wow, you guys, do you understand how completely fraudulent that sounds? And if you were playing the stupid so you could catch the bad guys, why is this shit still happening to me 5 years later? No. My first email to you was 2012. This is 2021. You're either worthless or this is the longest sting operation in the history of sting operations that I didn't ask to be a part of and I don't get compensated for, thank you. Nor do I receive any official protections by your weak asses. See, here's what I think, guys. I think cases like this, Olympia resident pleads guilty to cyber stalking, threatening, and obscene phone calls using internet spoofing service. I don't think this happened. I think that they literally, it's something that they make up. I think they just make it up. But it has another purpose. What would that purpose be? Do you think, guys? And again, this is all. Let's talk about possibilities. if they didn't actually do this, and it's possible that they didn't, it could or couldn't have happened that way. What would be the reason for faking it? Advertising. The fake prosecution, the press release that shows what happened, is actually the mafia, the Leone mafia, advertising that they can accomplish said types of services involving spoofing of phone numbers, faking of calls, making identities untraceable. And what makes this case super suspect to me is just all of the different things, guys. They tend to use Lobo and Wolf when it's the family. So again, they claim the guy is named Leonard. There's Leon, Wolf. Oh my God, you guys. And then they do this whole thing where it was like he was arrested on April 27th. Again, they'll do this 27th thing over and over again in these press releases. The 27th, again, is my name backwards. My name without vowels would be 72, GB, Gib, GB. Take out A and D, you get GB. Backwards, it's BG, 27. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that all these happen just for yours truly, but guys, hang on. Where's the other one here? Oh, but okay, so just to clarify, folks, this also is a part of the hack that I've been discussing that involves hacking of point of sale systems and restaurants and retail stores and the backdooring of gig-based apps that do food deliveries and other types of services and how they backdoor human trafficking, drug trafficking, and other types of money laundering activities into all of these systems. But see, when it's all being done that kind of gray, and it's nearly hard to decipher the official point of sale from this other gray market secondary system of monetary system we have in America. I think what the mafia has effectively done is created a second internet and a mirror of all the financial transactions that happen in America, and that they just kind of do swacking, switch active sides between their fictional internet, their fictional image of every transaction that's occurring, and they swap it with falsified and mirrored data regularly. They're altering history this way. They're altering records this way. Whoever's doing it. Because I just don't believe this story because it has the ciphers. Well, Jenny Durkan is the special agent in charge, but okay, guys, no. See, kill, pay, trick, tricks, sale. Well, who sells tricks? Pimps sell tricks. A trick is sold to a John. Then they give the person the age of 37, which means it's a zodiac thing. That means it's a fiction. It's fake, if you ask me. I love that it's brew, do. Brewer, doer, can. I can't, guys, I can't even go into all the meanings and everything else, but just figure it out. But now you know that nobody gets to positions of affluence without having some degree of whatever, because now the person that's involved with this case, look at this, guys. This case is being investigated by the FBI Seattle Division Cyber Task Force and other FBI entities, prosecuted by trial attorneys Carol, I love this, IP, pair, lie, Psi, internet protocol, pair means to synchronize, Psi means to fictionalize or fake, and IP address, and pair and lie about the person's reputation. Guys, you know something? Sipperly and Tulip mean the same thing. Think about it. Psi, lie about, tool lie, to lie, Psi, IP, internet protocol, tool lie IP, Psi, fake, trick, fake, the IP. This is the part, guys. Computer users who think that they have been victimized by a scareware should file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, www.ic3.gov. So again, guys, I literally took information straight to an FBI office, and they told me to take it to this website on a public Wi-Fi at a Starbucks. That was literally their advice to me. Rather than have it handed to them, they wanted me to do it that way. Do you think the FBI and the DOJ really cares, or is it really just that they're managing the crime and not really doing anything? They have virtual cases that they swap for real cases, if you ask me. You cannot get anything done with these people. All right, let's go back to their cases, though, because there's another one here. God, where was that? They had they kept on saying 27 in repetition. Here it is. So just examine that, guys. 27,257 credit number. I mean, that's such a specific number. Let's take a look what that translates to. Now, again, I know, see, unless you understand occult practice, that would just sound kind of narcissistic. But don't you get it, guys? Somebody in this family knows that I would be the person that calls BS on this, and that I would be very convincing because I'm not lying. Something is up. Things are being fictionalized and fake on an epic scale. Excuse me. But yeah, look at that. An emphasis over and over again. 27,000 card numbers. 27,257. Such specificity, I tell you. And again, using mirrors. And if you wonder why what I just typed, like why this is relevant, it's because of Aleister Crowley's law of reversal. They place the fiction out into the collective consciousness as a press release because it's literally doing a reversal on my influence, saying my name backwards, placing it into the fictional story when I have information that leads to a real case. Do you understand like why they do that at an occult level, like what the purpose is? You don't have to believe in those things, and I'm not even suggesting that it's healthy to, but understand the people that do, and they write press releases with intention. Why are the numbers so specific but still fiction oftentimes? Because it's literally part of the ritual to create a law of reversal loop on the person's name. And they do it to my name over and over again, guys. I was raised on 217th. What's 217? BAG. What's my name? GABE. My parents literally had me at an address that was 5220217. It's me seeing my name and thinking about it at a subconscious level backwards over and over and over again, writing it down in repetition. And then when you translate, you know, 5220217 equals EBB. Again, think about that. Like as a child, having me see the number in repetition as I walked up this really steep hill from the school bus. That was kind of like what I experienced over and over again in repetition. I get that that sounds a little bit Looney Tunes to the average person unless you really get the larger link, okay? Like why that's done and what they understood about what was going to happen from my perspective. I try not to get too weird with this, guys, because I really do need people that want the information that's a little bit more tangible and day-to-day reality to sort of get what I'm telling you, but you won't always understand. Oh, sorry guys, I'm not drinking Bud Light. It's definitely soda this time, so not much better, but no, I'm not drinking beer. Not trying to advertise for them either, but I have to have something to like wet my palate at the moment because it's just like my keep coughing with I don't have COVID, guys. It's only when I'm doing this presentation it keeps hitting my throat because I can't move around. Okay, so Fred, you said they're from Monterey, Nuevo Leon. That's trippy. Yeah. So you'd probably know a lot about that region too. Okay, so I know what I just said is going to be a little bit weird and esoteric to some people, and I understand why you would think that, but you still need to sort of like get where I'm coming with a lot of these things to understand the belief systems of people that have been within your groups. This practice of putting out the fake numbers and why they do it, it's a practice that's within Thelema, and it's also which is the religion of Aleister Crowley, and that's practiced by a lot of these people, and that dates back decades, and it's heavily embedded within people at NASA, within people in certain defense circles. A lot of them are just sort of they're worshipers of Crowley and his connections to OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis. It's an occult society that's engaged, I think, in ritualistic sex magic is really the best way to describe them. They're kind of a religion, I guess. I'm not sure that they qualify as a religion or not, or if they consider themselves. I'm not sure if they fall under like, I mean, they have a lot of like sort of Masonic-esque type ritualistic things within their thing, but I wouldn't call it a Masonic group. But you have people that are in these sort of official circles within intelligence that sort of like really think highly of Aleister Crowley. And a lot of that does tie back to America's history, to rocket science. And then that also connects into the worship of Werner von Braun, who was a Nazi SS scientist that was brought in 1945 under Operation Paperclip and basically given a red carpet here in America and made into kind of a hero. So, what I've basically tapped into is my family seems to have some type of connection to this ideology, and there's pockets of them that believe something similar. And so, this practice of Aleister Crowley's law of reversal, doing things in repetition, using numerology, using things involving mirrors of perception to fool and trick the collective consciousness, it's happening in America, and I know the roots of it. I know their value system. It is not consistent with America succeeding. It's not as simple as somebody doing something that would be consistent with free speech. What these people are doing is weaponized energetic manipulation, and they have tools and partners that they do it with. Proving it requires a level of sophistication when it comes to the hardware that I don't have immediate resources to gain. I've been able to get some degree of research to discuss like what's happening at a technology level independently. But yeah, I need more technical partners, and I need the cooperation that really honestly of federal law enforcement to be doing the rest of what I need to prove it. And they are showing zero interest. Why? Because they've gotten too used to faking it until they don't have to make it. They just get us to believe it. So they faked it until they got us to believe it. But now we're in a system where crime is just managed and not actually fought. A part of me, I don't know, guys. Like I ask myself, is Well, human trafficking and child exploitation are never acceptable and never allowable in any universe that I'm a part of ever. People having guns, people who buy drugs and sell drugs amongst each other and don't force it upon each other, people who buy and sell sex between consenting adults and don't impose it or hold people captive. I don't really have opposition to them because they're not doing anything that violates free will. Um, Again, I hope that people make better decisions with everything in life. All of us. I mean, it's not set out of any hypocrisy. Um, but I'm more concerned about addressing issues relative to the exploitation and the enslavement of people than I am of anything involving free will decisions and people just mitigating the harm and relative to those things. And I keep wondering why we exist in a country that places far more emphasis on reducing the number of guns and drugs on the streets than it does reducing the number of victims of human trafficking, which they effectively have like lent out the processing of all these things to a nonprofit agency that has heavy connections to Hollywood, and literally until recently had on their website that they accepted money from the Harvey Weinstein Family Foundation. A lot of money, enough to where they were very proud to list his name as a donor. A guy that I believe is a convicted rapist now. So if these are the people funding it, if these are the people that are oftentimes connected at a high level to the management of it, and they're known rapists, what's happening to victims of human trafficking, folks? Can we be real here? Why is my family not helping me? Is it perhaps because I am actually onto the truth and that it's just so bizarre that most people can't accept it as reality? And the reason why my family would seek to suppress me is because I am one of those rare individuals that if I had the platform and if I had more access to more people, they know damn well I could get the entire country to understand this. And they would listen. And I could tell everybody. They know it. That's why I'm suppressed. That's why I'm shadow banned, not for good reasons. People are just simply hiding this information because too many people benefit from the fakery. I'm not sure that you have a lot of people who know how to actually fight the real problems at this point. It's like whoever invented this at a high level wanted America to fail and for them to have the keys to the kingdom to live whatever lifestyle they wanted to while they laugh and go off into the sunset into their private islands and their underground Shangri-Las and bases, leaving us with the mess to clean up. They don't care. They're treating this country right now like people who will not have to be left with the aftermath. Don't you agree? Do these seem like politicians and leaders that are treating this country like a place they're going to have to live in themselves at the same level of quality that you do? They don't care. I'm not saying this to disparage you. I'm saying this to so where you don't feel compelled to even believe it a little bit. That it's okay to say, I'm not believing this. I've seen too many signs now that tell me that you guys are just making these things up and you have a reason to do it. Then if we can't get America to do something about their own problem, then we're all going to have to get together and just compel somebody at a more international level to help us. Transparent, out in the open. I don't know what else to do. But globally, our success is too intertwined with other success. We can't afford Cold Wars. We can't afford to have problems with China. We really can't afford to have problems with Russia. Do you guys understand how stupid it is that like withholding like America has had this policy of effectively lying about Russia for a long time to keep them from becoming any sort of like global player and competitor. Why? Because it's out of fear that Russia's actually doing it, whereas America's kind of faking it in many pockets. They know this. They're scared of people who know how to actually do it. So the answer is to just sort of keep these other countries back that should be allies of ours. And why do you think Putin always kind of sits back and kind of goes like, "Man, we're not going to f with China either, but y'all are stupid, man. We're staying out of this. Don't get us involved with your China thing. That's on you." That's why. And then Russia's been a victim of this fakery. So they got. Why do you think they blacklisted guys? Why do you think they blacklisted my aunt? My aunt is blacklisted from Russia. You think they haven't figured out how it's being faked? They can see from a distance who's faking it and how they're faking it. It's America that has its wool pulled over its own eyes. You guys won't look at this. You guys here in this audience will. You guys, you know what? I can't accept though that this effery is that it's just the way it is. It has a branding to it. It has a stamp to it, and it leads back to a central source of people that have accomplished this through money laundering and hiding their identities. And if you didn't already know who they were, it would be very challenging to figure it out. You'd almost have to be from one of their families. And then you would have to be a person that's willing to say something. The combination of these things is very rare. I think. Because I haven't found another one of me. And I just know there's a reason why, like, all of these different groups just won't have a conversation with me. It's like the things that I will reveal will peel back so many layers of the onion that I think it'll just bring too many people to tears, frankly, too fast. The intensity of peeling back the layer of the onion. When people see like all the layers of deception and how they've been lied to, it still affect. Like I still like that's why I'm doing this tonight. I'm doing like another hour and a half. I already did 2.5 hours earlier because it compelled me that much. I'm like, wow, I have to share what I just learned. I have to show you like these searches that I just did. So I put, again, guys, just to put a capsule on this. Do you understand why my information might hold a bit more water than average? My family is very politically connected and close to surveillance and intelligence circles, yet I'm allowed to be hacked despite having data that could lead to catching very similar crimes that my aunt alleged to have busted in the past during her career in the Department of Justice. Yet, she is connected to PROACT crisis assault training network of actors who create simulated fictions, not unlike what is required for live action role play events. And that's when I started to get a little bit more hip to how it might be working, guys. So I'm going to make this very clear. I, Justin Gabriel Cruz, do not ever participate in live action role play events. I do not participate in false flags. I do not participate in any sort of deception operations that involve acting or simulating crises. When you see me talking, when you see me speaking, when you hear my voice, I am speaking about something real 9 times out of 10. I am very seldom ever joking or whatever. No, I'm serious. Yes, I have a sense of humor and I joke around about a lot of things all day. Don't get me wrong. But when you see me doing this material, doing it this way, no, this is all serious as whatever. It's being done straightforward. There's no irony. There's no LARPing. There's no faking things. There's nobody that's in the background that if they've told you that they're part of it, they're not. I am independent when it comes to my method involving my disclosure. I don't get anybody else involved directly. I do it independent and solely, that aspect of it. So there would be nobody that would be part of a crisis actor thing that I would have trained with, I would have practiced with, I would have whatever. It never has happened. It never will happen. I will not engage in any of those activities. That is something that I'm very, very much against. It is because this information that I am releasing is that serious and it should be taken completely at face value. I don't want it to be misconstrued, so I would not participate in something like that. That's all. So just being very, very straightforward so that this is there as a historical record so that people understand clearly. I do not, will not, have not engaged in any live action role plays, things that would even hint at a false flag. Yet, I've been close to people that own companies that have the resources to train people to be crisis actors, networks of crisis actors, and I have relatives who have been one relative who married into the family, not a blood relative, who was in one of these shootings. These well, it was, I wouldn't call it a mass shooting, but not many victims, but it was people that was like a terrorist event in Southern California. It's just that the way it all aligns so much, it's hard for me to ever accept that it's a coincidence, especially when I find all the hidden occulted belief systems. Guys, do you understand? Like, then you get deeper into this whole thing involving like, what is it, Jenny Durkan with Chaz, this lady here. So this is the lady that's been side by side with my Aunt Kathryn prosecuting these cases, right? So let's look at this real quick. Wow. Durkan and Garvey are unmarried and not registered as a domestic couple. Because of this, Durkan did not have to disclose Garvey's financial records during her mayoral campaign. Garvey is a daughter of a Louisiana telecom magnate who sold his wireless telecommunications firm for $400 million and worked for AT&T Wireless Services as a senior executive. Oh my God! Wow! 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 Oh my God, you guys! Yeah, those unfamiliar, it leads back to this. I mean, really, that these types of ridiculous decisions relative to the George Floyd thing and all of the shenanigans, guys, like the connections between the Minneapolis event and the Portland events, the way Portland's crime has shot up like 8 or 900% on homicides and just general crime. I mean, the cops there have been crippled. They can't do anything anymore. They basically have been, told to stand down on all these different things. I mean, what are they supposed to do? And again, guys, it's not like I'm some person that's in love with the, oppressive police or people who abuse authority. Of course not. I'm absolutely in opposition to that, and I've never been okay with that. but I support people who put their lives at risk to defend people. I support them a hell of a lot more than people that just go out in the streets and bitch that everything isn't right and tear everything apart. It's kind of a no-brainer for me, to be honest with you. One part is putting their life at risk, even if they're getting paid to do it, it's still putting their life at risk to defend something that I would also like to see preserved. Like if I'm in a neighborhood, I don't want to see it all trashed. Everybody loves free things, of course, but we all agree that if everybody gets free things, then nothing's going to get done, nothing's going to happen. There has to be some degree of incentives to produce products and make goods that we can all like share and enjoy and participate in whatever enjoying and sharing. So how does that happen if there's no jobs? How does that happen if it's all been destabilized and the neighborhood's torn apart? How does that happen if you can't even get basic goods where you live? I mean, if you're seeking a revolution, do you achieve it by crippling the neighborhoods that you're in, even if you disagree with corporate structure? Is your plan to burn everything down? Why are you starting with, why do you start with your own neighborhood, number one, if it is your neighborhoods? Then you get deeper into what these people really are. You understand that Jenny Durkan leads to a whole bunch of other privileged people that just go into these different places and go like, fight the power, and then escape in their Mercedes and their Lexuses. They seed revolution into all the people that are impressionable and actually experiencing real poverty. The people that are actually poor, the ones that are really actually suffering, they get them to believe these things that they themselves do not believe. And you know what they wound up doing to Chaz, right? Let's take a look at this. Wikipedia never uses the word pimp when discussing Chaz. All right. Seriously, guys? Let's see. Let's do this. We got to find something about this. There you go. Seattle hires pimp for police reform. So I guess this was part of Jenny Durkan's plan. So check this out, guys. I'm not going to play the article, but this actually happened. So if it says, Andre Taylor's proposal would create something called the Community Development Collaborative, right? Gorgeous Dre. Okay, let's look this up. Oh, he has a website? Wow, you guys. So the guy that got hired to be the street czar of Seattle has a website called Gorgeous Dre, Master of the Game. Hey guys, this dude's making $150,000 a year working for Seattle to be, what is he again? He's the czar of police reform. Ladies and gentlemen, Gorgeous Dre, czar of police reform, Seattle, Washington, master of the game. This is all code. They doctor array. RET is remote electrical tilt. They tail, they follow people, and they tell lore, they tell lies. Yeah, he's part of the group that does EWs. Why? Because the road to paradise is code. Pair, they synchronize, they pair you up, they aim, ray, radiation, ray, rad, and they like to watch you die. Dicey, dice, dies. Pair, ray, dies. Has nothing to do with paradise. It has everything to do with hell. Right, Gorgeous Dre, master of the game, czar of police reform. What a load of horseshit. This guy doesn't care about his community. This has nothing to do with reforming people. This guy is a pimp. Why I'm even wasting my energy and time with this guy's website, I have no idea. Now, look, guys, that's all right. People change or they make whatever reforms or things like that. That's cool. I get it. But that guy kind of looks to me like he's making a big mockery of the whole thing. He doesn't look like a person that used to do things badly and decided to change his life. Hell, guys, I'm a person that thinks very highly of Malcolm X. I have a lot of his speeches. I've read a lot of his material, as whether it was his personal story or just admiring his speeches are brilliant, guys. I don't know what else to say. I mean, his logic and reasoning is outstanding, and it holds up to this very day. I think his statements now are every bit as relevant, if not more relevant today. That a lot of his more pointed speeches and statements are more relevant today than they were then. And largely, his material, I think, was repackaged and misunderstood, I think, in modern times. Especially, like, he'll tell you straight up the things about the media um, making the enemy look like the victim and the victim look like the enemy. And that the media will have you believing that, your enemy is your brother and your brother is your enemy every time. And that you really have to sort of like be conscientious of this. And he specifically spoke about the dangers of the quote, the helpful liberal. So he knew. And I'm the same way, guys. I'm not here. I don't have his belief systems necessarily. I don't, I'm not Muslim or anything like that. I did actually look into it, when I was younger, mostly because of my interest in Malcolm X. But yeah, the guy is very poignant. He has amazing speeches, logic, and reasoning. And so when I see just like jokers that are sort of ridiculous, and I mean, guys, this is something out of Idiocracy. Has anybody seen Idiocracy? I mean, you guys understand there's like this regular plot line where one of the characters in it is like constantly scared of her pimp coming to find her after she's traveled through time. Like, I don't think you understand. Upgrade can find me anywhere. I don't care if I'm in the year 2025. He's going to find me. She has a pimp named Upgrade, That's kind of what they've done, you guys. You understand? They literally are taking things from like movie plot lines and presenting them as reality. And it's like they poke at us like going, what are you going to do? It's like Jenny Durkan, the same people that make up, like the people that are close to these DOJ narratives involving cyber hacking, are looking at all of us hiring a pimp for $150,000 a year to manage police reform and then going, what are you going to do? Do you think a lady that's married to some elite 400 millionaire connected to the DOJ got that way? Guys, do you really think that her partner got that way through her not having a lot of information access? Through Jenny Durkan not knowing a lot about financial things relative to companies and Bell? I don't know. How the hell are these people damn near billionaires? And you can understand why I'm looking closer at my own family, who are side by side with Jenny Durkan prosecuting people that I don't think exist. You can understand why I look closer at my uncle, who got appointed to his positions by Governor Gary Locke, who was, yeah, Secretary of Commerce and Ambassador to China, two separate terms, two separate positions under Obama's term as president. So my uncle was appointed to certain positions in Washington state by a guy that later goes on to be a two-time Obama appointee, including Secretary of Commerce for all of America, as well as Ambassador to China. You got Gary Locke, you got Jenny Durkan, connected to these two powerful relatives of mine who have no clue what I'm talking about, I guess. Really? Then my brother's in the National Security Directorate operations, side by side with counterintelligence, Homeland Security, and National Security Administration. Also doesn't know. Then when you add in the level of abuse that happened in this family and the people that got away with it, then it becomes especially insidious, and you can understand why all of them are going to try to bury me until the end of time. Why none of them are ever going to give me my fair word out there, because they're too embarrassed by the things that they know they let happen. They're either embarrassed or it was a willful act of neglect designed to cover up a horrible crime. And everybody in this family, good, bad, or indifferent, knows that. And so I'm up against that too. I don't get phone calls, guys, very frequently. There's really only one person anymore that even contacts me. I have a pretty large extended family. Pretty much down to two. To be fair, like, I'm thinking about it. Yeah. And this very large family that's filled with dozens and dozens. Mind you, I could be calling people too. So it's not like I'm saying that. And I'm not judging y'all. I think I love you. I love quite a few of you. I mean, I'm done it. It's not like that. But see, I know how the family does. And just so y'all know, some of these same people are talking a lot of crap about you, some of my own cousins, to me, setting me aside separately back in 2010, 11, 12, etc., especially before I'd experienced some of these losses, and trying to convince me that some of you weren't the nicest people and telling me some pretty horrible stories about you, some of the elders. That now, I mean, at the time, guys, why would I question it excessively? The stories they were telling me coming from elders in the family, knowing that there's a pretty high level, well, always feeling that there was a high level of integrity, never really thinking that they would lie. So I apologize for listening to some people that probably lied to me about some of you to get me to think negatively. I didn't really ever do that, though, to be honest with you. It never made me think negatively. It just made me avoid communicating with certain people because of the things that I had been told. And I was just taking maybe a pause to see what was real and what was fake, or what I believed. Because it did seem out of character, some of the things that I was told. So now I really don't know what to believe. But I do know that when I find all this bizarre information, so the person connected to hiring a pimp to be in charge of Seattle was side by side with my aunt who was wearing pink hats to these Washington, D.C. protests, connected to crisis actors. And these narratives that are in the DOJ press releases look fake. Add on to that, they're banned from Russia. And now I think, guys, is something I didn't dig into deeply enough before, but I think what you've got there, the Russia connection, is, yeah, you have this historical thing that's been going on between the Nazis and the Russians, and what Russians know about where the Nazis are. People want you to believe that, like, there's the Mossad is hunting Nazis from Israel. I don't think it's really happening, guys. If there's anybody that's probably hunting Nazis, it would be Russians, I would think. I don't know, but I don't even think that they have a vendetta to the same degree. But I do know this. America kind of just goes like, yeah, that Nazism. Well, there's some of these like Aryan nation people that still wear swastikas, but that's a thing that happened in World War II. Oh no, no, it's still going on. They're still performing their Reich, and they're doing it here in America using American resources in ways that are largely undetectable to most Americans, but the rest of the world is becoming incredibly hip to. So if America doesn't get hip to it, you're not going to find yourselves in a good position. So wake up. Because here's what I'm trying to explain to you guys: things like the Ukraine thing, that we just don't have that much sophistication. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I get it that much. But this is where I had an aha moment today, thinking about Chernobyl and the Ukraine and all the other things going on. You basically got Biden that was kind of circumventing, Trump during his presidency in the beginning, going like, yeah, he's just a dog that barks, man. Don't worry about him. We're going to get you some money, man. Don't worry, got you all settled, man. World Bank, you just got to put this guy into this position and oust this other one, and we'll get you your money. I mean, he was basically doing quid pro quo with World Bank funds, Biden, with Ukraine. Why? What is the larger thing going on? Well, I think there's two things that are going on. You've got the transportation of nuclear material. America does not have a place to store waste, and they need a place for it to go to. It looks like Chernobyl is one of those places. How it gets from America to Chernobyl, that's what I have to research more, because I'm kind of going, whoa. How do you guys plan on getting all that nuclear waste from one place to the other? What secrets are you keeping? Are you really going to travel that far with nuclear waste? How are you getting it from one spot to the other? I'm wondering, guys. I'm wondering how this is all going to work out. All right. At the same time that happened to President Trump, I was seeing these video clips that they're quickly erased, and I'm having a hard time finding them again. But it's basically Lindsey Graham, McCain, when he was still alive, obviously, and Amy Klobuchar, all in the Ukraine, telling Ukrainian soldiers, like, we're here for you. We're going to support you all the way. We're going to get you all the resources you need. Don't you worry about a thing. And they're talking about this relative to Russia. They're basically taking an adversarial position in support of Ukraine, in opposition of Russia, and then supporting the narrative within the mainstream media that Russia is invading the Ukraine. Look, guys, I don't always know how. I don't know how all that works out entirely, okay? But sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit. I'm on. Hang on. The thing with, okay, so I'm trying to be more nuanced with this. I don't want to be too whatever. All right. Our relationship with the Ukraine, if you follow social media relative to the Russians and how they perceive World War II, like I have, I've been watching them pretty closely for the last year and a half or so, and even commenting frequently back, because I really was quite ignorant to the level of history of Nazis and how they've kind of stayed in pockets all across the world to basically continue their Reich out in the open, but in a way that's nearly undetectable to the average person, because they're so in love with this practice of occult mirrors. They can really do very large scale deceptions in front of everybody and trick people by doing it in a really obvious and absurd way that people like us can recognize. It trolls us, but everyone else, it puts them into this very strange state of denial where they won't accept reality no matter how much you present it to them, because you giving them the reality turns you into the crazy person instead of the people that created the crazy story for us all to believe in. It's what it's designed to do. So we have to be more nuanced in how we approach the material sometimes, and go after it, because these people they're able to manipulate and spin stories in ways that are sophisticated enough to trick the American brain, but they're also designed to confuse data sets for foreign audiences similarly. And I think that's how they get away with it with defense groups too, is they're saying, like, we're doing this for America. It's like, you're not really doing this for America. You're spinning things to protect yourselves. And I think that there's people in his family, some, not all. I think there's some that will use the excuse of protecting America to really just protect their own interests and the interests of the mafia. And that's something that I hope you're aware of. That's not actually rooted in defending America. And so when I found that footage of like people like Klobuchar and McCain and Lindsey Graham, I'm like, wow, you've got a hardcore Republican in Lindsey Graham. You got McCain as a moderate Republican who's, like more Dems were friendly to him, guys. Let's face it. And then you've got Amy Klobuchar, who is a straight up Minnesota DFL. I mean, she's the Democratic Farmer Labor Party. They're pretty liberal. They're pretty progressive overall. You're talking about Omar is in there. You're Ilhan Omar. You're talking. You got Ellison. Keith Ellison is in Minnesota DFL. Some very, very liberal people that are very aligned with Oregon's interests. Okay. So, and I have photos of Keith Ellison posing next to Louise Marquez, who was at that Chaz thing doing the whole speech and that got the media's attention. So ask yourself how he got there and why people in my family are so warm and friendly. Like there's times where I'd be next to a relative and they go like, I really like this Keith Ellison guy. Like, you do? Why? He provided access to old Louise Marquez at Rose City Antifa and posed with books saying like, this is Donald Trump's worst nightmare, Antifa. Go Antifa, go, go, go. Excuse me, guys. They're really not people for you to like fall in love with, okay? All right, I'm going to give you a quick article on, hang on really fast. Oh, no, that's not the one. Hang on. All right, this is a quick synopsis on my Aunt Kathryn. I'm going to play this for about 5 minutes and I'll be right back. Kind of running around, and it's kind of made me disgusted with the mainstream media personally. I can't really watch it anymore, and I've kind of abandoned RT America and other news outlets because I've just noticed similar patterns to the way information is spread in the United States, and but more importantly, misinformation. So I wanted to focus a little bit on this story about a gentleman that was from Russia that was convicted of, I guess, credit card theft and credit card number theft and cybercrime. And as a result of this case, the man's name was, let's see here. Sorry about this, folks. His name was Seleznev, and Roman Seleznev. And when this happened, the response after the Department of Justice did this was that Russia responded by blacklisting some U.S. Department of Justice officials by the names of Ethan Ray Aronson, Kathryn Warma, Norman Barbosa, and Charles Seth Wilkinson. Full disclosure, I do know one of these people in my experience, so I just wanted to be open about that. Because really what I'd like to do here is because I do have an affection for Russia, and I do care about our country also. And I do know that it's in the best interests of our country to get along with Russia and to have a harmonious relationship with the rest of the world. So if I see something that may have involved, maybe somebody potentially that I'm close to where I can maybe respond as a mediator, I want to make sure that I do that. So just trying to be fair to Russia here and just trying to help our country understand what I'm trying to do here is a little bit just to play. I'm not going to say, well, I'm just trying to say, let's look at it from their perspective. What would they be thinking if they saw some of the data that I found? Okay. So in reviewing what was going on here, I found a company called ProAct. And what ProAct does is crisis assault actor training or crisis actor training. So if you're not familiar with what that is, A crisis actor is basically a person that will be like in emergency situations. They're there to sort of pretend to be one of the victims or whatever, and play along with the ambulances and everything like that, so they can do like a simulation. Okay, and so I kind of noticed that that same last name of the person that I know was attached to some of these companies, and so I started saying, how would Russia perceive what was going on with our mainstream media right now, knowing that there were connections to the Department of Justice, this person's name, and a company that trains actors, to do scenarios and mimic things in public. And so, I just wanted to offer that out there to people on all sides, let them know that if I can be a mediator in this and have a discussion with people on all sides to maybe find out what's going on here a little bit, to see if there's some concerns that need to be addressed so that we can have a good relationship again. I think that that would be very valuable. I think it would also help smooth over the relationship between the media, our president, because I may not agree with Trump and I don't really necessarily like his policies and things like that, but the one thing I do respect is he's trying to have a good relationship with Russia, and I think that there may be some things going on with the mainstream media that are trying to prevent that from happening. So really, all I'm trying to do is just try to get everybody to kind of put down their swords a little bit, because some people are very skilled at disinformation, and some people are very wealthy. Some people have a lot of exploits into certain groups and can manipulate perceptions from afar. And so I just want to make sure that we're being fair to everybody in all these scenarios, and we're addressing these problems appropriately. So, so as I was, researching that, I kind of did track them down to California, and so I just want to be open about that too, folks, because I do know a lot of people that view this material are aware of me and people that I know and that are connected to my family. So I just want to be transparent with folks and make sure that they understand that I'm not trying to conceal anything, but at the same time, I'm also trying to respect that people have to live their lives too. So but since these are all things that are offered as public services and publicly available businesses and everything like that, I'm not advertising here. I'm not trying to promote any of these services. I'm not going to tell you that they're good or bad. I'm just trying to say that if you were Russia and you were viewing all the names attached to this case from the outside, knowing what you know about some of the things that I've discussed up until now, especially involving wordplay, you might be concerned if you were Russia, and you might be concerned rightfully, I think. So this is really just to say that I would like to be a mediator in any discussion, and maybe help bridge the gap informationally between these groups. And if I can do that, I would like to. Yeah, I was being like way too diplomatic when I did that. But that was like back in 2018, folks. So that was a few years ago. And I was just learning all this information. So, when you're put into a position where you don't know what to think of it, and these are people that you've been kind of close to your whole life, and then your attempts to ask questions about it historically have been met with kind of like, I don't know. But that that's not really a good enough answer. I mean, it doesn't, the things that were going on in my own case, it didn't satisfy me that they didn't know anything any more than it would satisfy me that they had done their due diligence with these other things that I was finding. That's all. So, hang on here. All right. And get back to these articles. All right. So you can kind of see, guys, like why I'm a little bit concerned. And then when you start doing more research, like you just like from this article here, it says Russia has blacklisted 4 U.S. Justice Department officials: Charles Seth Wilkinson, Ethan Ray Aronson, and Kathryn Warma, Norman Barbosa. All right. So again, like a lot of times when I see these things, I go, do all of these people really exist? Do all of these attorneys, were they born with these names, or are there some cases where like a crisis actor is being like a puppet or a shield or a surrogate especially in cases that may be more high profile, where maybe the person that's doing more of the footwork doesn't want to have their name associated with it and would prefer to have like the high profile element of it associated with like more of a puppet or a buffer. I think that that's how it was probably sold as a system, and how it's alleged to work. But it really isn't that, I don't think. I think it really is just cover for the mafia at this point, buffers. And hang on here. This dynamic between the Russia and Ukraine, I think, is the part that really needs to be looked in deeper by the average person to say like why are not there pockets of Nazis in the Ukraine? Why do they put up statues and sort of like support Nazism kind of openly? And how would that be perceived like compared to events that go on in the United States? Because culturally, I look at the Ukraine and I kind of go like, wow, they did do that. But then I kind of look at our own country and I go, but we have statues of Werner von Braun. He's Nazi SS. We have arenas after von Braun. He's Nazi SS. We have Jack Parsons has statues, and he was a guy that's in OTO sex magic with Aleister Crowley. I mean, these are all people that seem to have like these alliances relative to occult work, or relative to perception of how we see events currently and in history, and manipulating narratives for the sake of their own power base and continuing to, keep all of us in an illusory reality of their creation that exploits us, extorts from us, manipulates us, steals pretty much from all of us equally, and keeps us all arguing over fictional stories that don't really even exist. And that feeds energy to who? The same people that are robbing all of us. Do you want it to end? Do you want it to stop? Would you like all of this to just come to an end? Because I do believe that we're on the cusp of making that a reality. So a lot of it's going to be review of this information. I wanted to receive more critical review. I would like it to be questioned in more detail. I don't discourage that. I welcome it, quite frankly. I just don't know where the right venues are to do that through. I need them to be quality. I need them to be areas where I'm not looking for people that are sycophantic or who will agree with everything that I say, but I'm not looking for an argument either. I just want a critical review of the data, because I'm aware a lot of it's erroneous that's been presented to me even. And again, it doesn't mean that I've presented it to you erroneously. It just means that I've received information that I personally would like to have better review of. I want to know if it's real or fiction. I want to know if the things that have been said that are negative are true or fiction. And so we're going to have to find ways to achieve that also. And I hope that the breadth of this material and everything that I've done here is at least a template through which to start that through, that we can develop a series of documentaries or stories, or even if it's just a radio show that goes over some of this material in more detail on a daily basis. I don't really care, but we've got to get something going. And I do believe I'll be a part of it, and I'd be happy to do that. But um, sooner than later would be great. Also, folks, I'm going to have to wrap this one up, but if anybody would like to support this work or this channel, this would be a great time to do it. You can find details on how to do that in the description below. I'm going to be doing another one soon on an I'm already getting it wrong. Omicron, the different variations on Corona and things like that. That will be the next one. But this, I just had to get out more tonight because I just ran across more information, wanted to put it out there. So thank you everybody for joining. I do appreciate your viewership, and thank you for your support. Have a good night. It ended.